Mosport. That was his only career victory. Today, he wants to make that number 2. Both will be chasing points leader Tommy Archer, who will be driving without brother Bobby on the grid for the first time this season as the Tide Trans Am Tour moves north to Canada for round number 4. This is Toronto, home of the Blue Jays and on the northern shore of Lake Ontario. An hour northeast puts you in Bowmanville and Mosport Park, home to Canada's most famous permanent racing facility, and host today to the Tide Trans Am Tour. It's a beautiful afternoon for racing here at Mosport Park. Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Kingery, along with Bill Adam. Bill, Scott Sharp's been dominating the weekend. He's on the pole again. He's been running away from the rest of the field, yet he hasn't won this year. How much pressure is he under?
Well, last year, Scott was nothing short of incredible. He was perfect in every one of his performances, and yet this year, they've had troubles. The crew have made mistakes. Scott has made some very uncharacteristic driving errors. But so far this week, he has been almost demoralizing with his perfection. Very, very fast.
And when everybody's trying hard to catch him, how much pressure are those other guys under, and how much pressure are they putting on their machines?
I think they're going to have to put a lot of pressure on their machinery because Scott has led every session seemingly without effort. Now, if they see him pulling away, they're going to push as hard as they can, and in a lot of cases, over that 100th percentile, and they'll break their cars trying to catch him.
Everybody trying to catch Scott Sharp, and for one of those stories, let's send you to pit row. Here's Paul Chater.
And one of those stories, indeed, a surprise. On the inside of row number 4 is local favorite and second in the point standings, Ron Fellows. Now, he gambled during qualifying. He put harder compound tires on both left side, hoping that in the end he would have a little more speed as some of the other drivers started to lose their tires. Now, the interesting point is that of the top 6, 3 drivers have gone with softer compounds on the left front, harder compounds on the left rear. This could very well mean that the drivers who are quickest at the start could be the slowest at the finish.
There are a lot of stories here at Mosport Park this weekend. We'll develop them as the race proceeds, but the big story, can anybody beat Scott Sharp? We're coming back. We'll take a look at the starting grid. We're going racing right after this.
Drivers, start your engines!
23 powerful engines have roared to life here at Mosport. Let's take a look at the starting grid for today's Trans Am race. Scott Sharp on the pole. He was on the pole last year. He won last year. It's one of his favorite tracks.
Outside of row 1, car number 74, another Camaro driven by George Robinson. Very fast, also very smooth at qualifying.
On the inside of row 2, Scott Sharp's teammate Jack Baldwin, his best finish this year, 6th.
Alongside Jack, the only true challenger to GM domination, that's Tommy Archer in the lone Dodge Daytona today.
On the inside of row 3, Les Lindley, another guy who likes the track. He's already won at this track this year in another class of car.
And the outside of row 3, maybe the man with more experience than anybody, Greg Pickett. Watch for Greg.
Take a look at the rest of the field. Wayne Akers' team has had some transmission problems with his car the last couple of weeks. He's had 23rd place finishes the last 2 times out.
Deborah Gregg, the field's lone woman. Deborah seems to get faster every year, has done a fine job at qualifying.
Jerry Clinton, part of that Tom Gloy team that includes Ron Fellows. Their 3rd driver, Walter Payton, not here today.
And a nice story back in row 10, number 76, Jerry Simmons. He is what SCCA is all about. A true amateur racer, brings his Corvette here every year, really does a nice job with it too.
And the 23rd car is Peter DeMann. He was involved Friday in a crash that knocked Bobby Archer's car out. Well, we've been talking about how tough a track it is, a speed track. Let's take a lap and see what it looks like with Bill Adam.
On On the start-finish line, we're already in fourth gear, approaching 110 mile an hour downhill turn 1. Feed the car hard to the inside because it tries to slide out right there. 130 miles an hour approaching left-hand turn 2. Over the crest of a hill, the car gets very light here. Slides a little bit to the outside, then pull it back in for that second apex. Feed on a lot of power here. We're still in fourth, but right here, stab the brakes, drop to third gear on a long turn 3. Now there is your apex as you're back under full throttle. The car is still turning and feed right to the outside edge of the track. 8,000 revs in fourth, briefly off the gas, and this long downhill chute. Very famous part of the track right here. Heavy, heavy braking into Moss Corner. This is the slowest section of track, but critical because right now we're getting fed out of that hairpin in second gear onto the back straight. Just a gentle corner here that we're running flat out, never changing. 8,000 revs through second, third, fourth gears. We're going quite a bit uphill here. Just grabbing fifth over the crest of this hill. Now we're 8,300 revs in fifth gear at 160 miles an hour, and whoop, up over the top under heavy braking. Down to fourth gear, feed to the inside, and watch the car sliding. You want to hold it all the way in and get set up for a left-hand turn 9. Tight to the apex over a little bit of concrete bumping. Feed it back to the outside. Third gear through turn 10. Full throttle down the start-finish straight to complete our lap at Mosport Park.
That's the view that Scott Sharp's going to have, at least for the first few laps. But what about the rest of the players? How about Ron Fellows, a hard charger? Where can you pass at Mosport Park?
Force your way by in turns 3 and going into 8 at the end of the back straight. There are a few other places, which I won't reveal, where you can make a little room. But those are the sort of longest braking zones where you can get a run on somebody, and it's coming out of 2, going into 3 on the inside, and off the back straightaway, perhaps get a draft and win the bravery contest going over the hill, going into 8.
Cars have one more lap to go before we'll see the green flag. Bill, at this point, does anybody challenge Scott Sharp right from the start? Does anybody try to do something dramatic going into that tight turn 1?
Well, if I were to say one person can do it, I think that's going to be Greg Pickett. We made a little bit of a discussion on the tire choices right now, and just for those that are new to Trans Am racing to understand, the cars with the harder compound tires are at a little bit of a disadvantage in that they take longer to heat up. Racing tires do not work perfectly until they reach an optimal temperature. And these harder tires, they can withstand more abuse, but the downside is they take longer to heat up. Greg Pickett is starting with a softer, slightly softer tire all the way around in his car. He will have a very small advantage for the first half dozen laps. He may try and make a run. Greg historically has always been very fast at Mosport. He's smooth, quick. He could do it.
Scott Sharp loves this racetrack. He won here last year, and he talks about driving Mosport.
I really love Mosport. To me, Mosport is one of the most exciting tracks in North America. It's a track where you're in a whole lot of trouble if your car's not handling well. But fortunately, ours is handling real well here, and it makes it really exciting because the turns are just such high-speed, fast corners that you're really on the edge of your seat the whole way through. And it just makes for, especially during qualifying, a pretty exciting trip around the track.
A lot of these drivers, Tommy Archer included, were saying, Bill, that they were getting 4 to 8 miles an hour slower down that long back straightaway than Scott Sharp. That's a lot to make up considering how long that straightaway really is.
Yes, it is very difficult. And right now, the Dodge, even though it's doing nothing short of a remarkable performance this year, for a brand new car, a brand new team to come and be this competitive this quickly, it's quite incredible. But to have that much of a disadvantage in a straight line does hurt them. I think it will not take very long before you see them right up to speed. But Chevrolet, we have to remember, they have got a phenomenal history in racing with a lot of mileage under their belts in developing this small block engine.
Tommy and Bobby Archer, unique among teams in that they talk to each other directly on the radios. Bobby Archer isn't here today. Does it affect Tommy as a driver at all?
I think it does to a certain degree, in that Tom may change race strategy. When you have 2 cars in a race, you can sometimes, if you choose to, send one car out as a rabbit to try and push the person you're most worried about, make him stress that car just the fraction too much and maybe brake. Today, they can't do it, so I think Tommy has to run as hard as he can. He knows that the cars that are up ahead of him, George Robinson,
Of course, Scott Sharp and Jack Baldwin alongside are all very experienced drivers, and he has to try and push them into maybe making one of their rare mistakes.
George Robinson, another guy working without a teammate. Paul Gentilozzi, who won last week in Portland, isn't here this week for the first time.
No, George is very impressive. I think last year he started to come into his own, and he just keeps getting better and better all the time. He retains the same smooth style that Scott Sharp does, and that helps on a track like Mosport, where you want to retain this flow.
23 beautiful machines swinging by, getting ready to take this green flag.
Robinson
We're up
just
on the
trying
main
to
straightaway. And the green flag is out. We're racing at Mosport.
No, Scott Sharp got a great start there. In fact, Jack Baldwin has slid up into second place there. You can see that the cars are going through here. Les Lindley was able to get up. In fact, Robinson, it looks like, has gone all the way back to 5th place behind the Archer Dodge. Yes, he has.
So the teammates are running 1-2, Scott Sharp in the Duracell Camaro, and then, of course, the Mattel Hot Wheels Camaro. His teammate, Jack Baldwin, right behind as they head up the hill.
Oh, that has to make George Robinson very angry, because what he did was to try and get a little bit of a jump on Scott Sharp before the drop of the green. Saw that he was pulling ahead, may have been penalized, backed off the gas just at the point where Sharp got on the gas. That's what gave everybody else the run, and now Robinson has to play a catch-up game.
Interesting track, as you pointed out, Bill, because there are a lot of guys here, like a Les Lindley, like a Scott Sharp. They love to go out and run hard here. Jack Baldwin was telling us yesterday, if you do anything at a track, maybe this is the track to err on the side of caution on.
Oh, you can't make a mistake here. Mosport has always been respected and feared, I think, by some of the greatest drivers in the world. Look at Sharp. You can see already he is right on the limit of braking. When you see the car wiggling that little bit under braking, you know the tires are literally on their limit of adhesion. They're just at the point of locking up. The cars that are racing here do not have ABS braking systems like you get on a street car, because quite frankly they increase braking distances. They're good for stopping a brake lockup, but you don't want that on a race car. You use your skill. Now, to see the car wiggling like that, they're using 100% of the braking capability, and that's what Scott is already doing after just one lap.
Clean start, and we're into lap number 2, and now our first casualty of the day, and that's Peter DeMann. Started 23rd. He had all kinds of problems before the incident with Bobby Archer that knocked Bobby out of the race on Friday afternoon.
There you can see that Scott Sharp has already pulled out what looks to be a 1 or 2 second lead over Jack Baldwin, his own teammate, and this is a good position for them. Even though they do drive for the same team, they are individual cars, crews, and everything else, and naturally they each have to try and satisfy their own sponsors. Scott is in the Duracell car there that's just disappearing up the hill. You can see the marshal on the right-hand side of the track. He is warning the drivers of some debris, which I would expect will be Peter DeMann's hood. But he's sending them over. Yes, there it is. You can just see on the right side of the picture there. That's DeMann's hood. So he's warning the drivers, stay far to your right, keep it safe.
Here's what it looked like as Peter DeMann encountered the difficulty. Oh, yeah. I'd say he's barbecued, Bill.
Yeah, I agree. That's not a hot car there to be in. Oh, he's still cooking, too. Little gasoline fire. I guess if you're going to have a fire, this is a good spot to have it, where there's a lot of fire extinguishers right in that pit lane.
Peter DeMann in his first race from Mississauga, Ontario, just down the road here from Bowmanville, where we're at Mosport Park. One of the 4 Canadians running in the field today. Really the only one of consequence in terms of the men with a chance to win from Canada. That'd be Ron Fellows.
And the fellow right there, that number 8 Camaro, that's Les Lindley. Now, for those viewers that have never seen Les Lindley, he looks like he's cast out of a Hollywood movie. Wonderful big handlebar mustache, much like Ben Davidson of the old Oakland Raiders used to wear his. And when he comes to Mosport, for some reason, Lindley gets positively fired up. He is always blindingly faster. You can see he is harrying Jack Baldwin's Hot Wheels Camaro, driving very quickly.
Scott Sharp on a roll right now and has the lead. He wanted to get a quick start. He's got it. Jack Baldwin, his teammate, right behind. Jeff Kingery along with Bill Adam. We're live at Mosport Park, 4 laps into this 40-lap race. Scott Sharp, who sat on the pole, is the leader. His teammate Jack Baldwin has moved up a spot to take second. Les Lindley, charging hard, now has third, Bill.
And Les, I think, is a story to watch. We just mentioned a few moments ago that he is always quick at Mosport. He is not relenting right now, and this is a bit of a problem for Jack Baldwin. when you're driving these cars, you want to try it. And there's a spin. That's the Baja Camaro. Excellent job just getting the car back around. That's on a blind turn 3. He did a very good job getting his car out of the way as quickly as possible, involved with Mr. Valentine, the number 54 Mobile Camaro.
Courtney Smith and R.J. Valentine mixing it up.
Again, you can still see these cars just wiggling under braking. That Scott Sharp continues to be very effective on braking areas. This train is staying very close right now. We'll watch there. There's Jack Baldwin, the Hot Wheels car, and there's the number 8 Les Lindley car. Continuing, as I started to tell you, what Jack is experiencing right now is just flashes of yellow color in his mirror. Every time he goes from the left side of the road where he is now over to the right, there's that yellow. It never goes away. And after a certain time, it can't help but tell in your concentration. Now, Lindley really got loose going down 2 there. He's pushing hard.
As Jack Baldwin and Les Lindley continue to fight for second place, let's go to the pits, talk a little bit about team strategy. Here's Paul Chater.
Okay, we've got Greg Pickett just pulling out of the pits. He had a problem, and the hood of the car was flapping in the breeze. They've taped it down. He's now back into the race, but it's cost him. Yep. Dennis, I'm a team manager here for Scott Sharp. Jack Baldwin running in second place, teammate to Scott Sharp. Have we got any team orders going here? Is he trying to hold up the rest of the field?
Not at all. Not at all. We're running our own race. We're trying to stay up front, keep our nose clean, and finish the race first. That's all there is.
Scott Sharp charging hard, but Jack Baldwin is indeed holding up the rest of the field.
Well, Jack Baldwin wouldn't hurt if he got a little wide at this point, but Jack Baldwin, a good driver, of course, in his own right, ran second to his teammate Scott Sharp in this Trans Am Series a season ago. Jack's just as hungry.
Oh, Jack Baldwin is always hungry, and I think Jack Baldwin is to the SCCA Trans Am Series like Dale Earnhardt is to NASCAR. He is somebody that no matter what car he has, charges endlessly with that car, and he is not afraid to get right sideways and drive it with tires smoking and, if necessary, body panels off or missing. He really is an excellent racer. He fits the name on that car right now because he does drive with Hot Wheels.
Courtney Smith from Cyrus, Ohio, is in the pits right now. We mentioned he got tangled up with...
Oh, and there's a spin coming down the chute.
Yeah.
That looks like it's Archer's Dodge that's off.
Tommy Archer is off, and also George Robinson.
Oh, no. Looks like they're both able to continue. I think they're going to get underway. Now, it looks like... Let's take a look and see if he had a flat tire. Maybe that was just grass causing him to go sideways.
He's got a little damage on that left front.
He will continue. I don't think that'll be a problem. We're going to get a look at what happened here in just a moment. Now, here's the replay going down the chute, and you can see Archer spinning. Look at Robinson doing his best to avoid him. This is a blindingly fast part of track. They're going down that section 120 miles an hour, totally blind to what is ahead, and Robinson's avoidance was nothing short of miraculous. I don't know what happened with Archer's car. He just suddenly lost it there. Amazing that they're both able to continue with no damage on them. Just a little bit of damage on that left front corner. You can see that the air dam has been knocked back in. That will not really, in fact, George's car also just a tiny bit of damage on the back. Neither car will be affected as far as lap times.
Tommy Archer talking about a lot of these turns here. They are blind, some damage on George Robinson, and he is coming into the pits for yet another time. But Tommy Archer said you've got to know what you're doing before you get to the turns.
You really do. Both turn 2 and 4 here are blind, downhill, left-hand corners, both well in excess of 100 miles an hour. And you have to commit your car. George only made a stop there just to see if everything was okay. It was strictly a safety check on his part. I thought for a moment he may have to put a new hood on, and that would have taken a few moments, but thankfully the car is okay, and his crew have said, fine, go back out and chase him down, George.
Bill, Scott Sharp has to be enjoying everything that's going on in his mirrors right now. He has had the best car all week. It's obviously running perfectly right now, and he looks back and sees some of the guys that were right next to him or near him on the grid knocking each other around.
Well, he will be kept in touch of the other's progress by his crew chief. We can get a view of a small aerial on the roof, and I advise people that is not because he's listening to the local FM band. He is listening to the crew chief, and their job is not only to advise him of when he may want to make a stop if necessary, or problems on the track, if everything looks good here or there, how much of a lead he has. The days of pit boards are numbered. It's much easier to talk via two-way communication. What used to happen was that sometimes your competitors would read off your pit board to find out what you were doing. Well, with two-way communication, it's much harder to eavesdrop. The number 2 car.
Deborah Gregg moving up just a little bit in the field. Looks like running 8th at this point. There's Tommy Archer again, banged up a little on the front left side, but it's not going to cause any damage. Certainly doesn't seem to be at this point.
No, and this is Tom right now is leaving turn 3, and as he is approaching their camera, that is turn 4 right there is where the incident happened.
Scott Sharp is your leader. Tommy Archer trying to get back into it. We'll be back.
Mission: create the ultimate automobile polish. Establish the new definition of shine, the new standard for protection. Mission accomplished. Liquid Crystal, the most technologically advanced automobile polish ever made. Liquid Crystal was applied to this 1982 Blazer with no rubbing, no buffing. Its showroom shine is instantly restored. After polishing with Liquid Crystal, this car was put through a car wash 104 times, 2 years worth of car washings, and water still beads. Liquid Crystal will give your car unequaled protection and an extraordinary deep gloss shine nothing on the street can beat. Try Liquid Crystal. If you don't agree that it shines and protects better than any car wax you've ever used, we'll send you your money back. Liquid Crystal automobile polish. Quite.
Archer, you've got tires here ready for your brother Tommy. Why so early in the race?
Well, it looks like we got hit from behind by the 74 car, and right now the left front bodywork is rubbing on the tire, and we're not quite sure what's going to happen, but we're ready for it.
Do you wish you were out there running interference for him?
Pardon me?
Do you wish you were running interference for him?
Well, in that case, it's not interference as much as playing catch-up. You know, he got spun out, and there's a little damage in the car, but there's a lot of racing left. So.
A lot of racing left indeed, and Tommy Archer is out on the track with some damaged bodywork. They've got the tires waiting.
On the 10th lap, and Scott Sharp, who started on the pole, still the leader. We show Tommy Archer right now struggling to bring this car around in 7th position.
Yeah.
Jack Baldwin runs 2nd. Then it's Les Lindley.
I'm sure someone will get by, and in fact, maybe Paul, you can even go back and talk to Bobby and let him know that that was not George Robinson's fault in starting that whole incident. We can see the back of the Dodge does not have a mark on it, and Robinson, I thought, just did a fantastic job in avoiding some serious damage to both these cars. Here's a replay. Just watch Tom Archer here as he goes off the track. Look at this, up over the speed bumps. This is 125 miles an hour desert driving. You want to be in that car? Not me.
Tommy Archer started in ice racing along with his brothers. I think that was a little different out there today.
That's throwing some sand down onto the ice here. And there he just continues on around the track. But here's our leader. Scott Sharp, again, is continuing this flawless performance. He has really been beautiful at this track, and I think this is the prototype Scott Sharp that developed last year, where he seemingly drives without any effort and just pulls away a little bit at a time, not overstressing his car. And I think as much as anything, Scott Sharp probably impresses me more than any other young driver of North America. I am very impressed with this young man because he not only knows how to push down the right pedals at the right times, but thinks about how far he has to push and how much to stress his car, his tires, everything. He is just remarkably intelligent and fast in a car.
Jack Baldwin running 2nd. That's Les Lindley running 3rd in the Chevrolet. Les hasn't run on this series since Long Beach back in April, and won't run again until the last race at Sears Point. How tough is it to just come back and every once in a while jump into the car and go racing?
Well, Les has so much experience in these cars that I think he is one of the few people that can miss quite a few races, get back into this car, and as you see here, be instantly competitive. He gets right at home, and for some reason, because this is not a track that takes kindly to being away from a while, but for some reason Les gets back here to Mosport, and he is very much at home. He's incredibly fast with the car.
Jack Baldwin has his hands full holding on to second. We asked him what it would take to win here at Mosport Park.
Well, it's going to take a good car, and I think my Mattel Hot Wheels car is a good one. It's going to take a good, smooth, steady race, stay out of trouble. Same thing he does at other racetracks, and try to run down Scott.
Run him down? Come on, Jack.
I don't think anybody will run him down if that machine stays. Bill, how hard is Scott Sharp going right now? He's obviously worked his way out to a nice little lead for the moment. He's got Baldwin blocking, but how hard is he working to get that lead?
Well, I haven't seen any signs that Scott has been working the car hard, or himself hard, which sometimes can be just as damaging. You can see as he disappears just out of picture view that the only signs of that car being worked are the occasional little wiggles under hard braking. Now that alone, as long as you don't lock up the tire, and of course if you lock a tire you flat spot it, but that alone will not damage your tires. You damage your tires a lot more by these long high-speed power slides, because what that does is similar to taking a pencil eraser across paper. You develop heat, and as soon as you develop too much heat in these tires, they start to go off, as they call it. They lose some of that all-important traction. Scott is driving so smoothly, it really looks like he's out for a Sunday drive, and sadly, the television cannot give you any idea of just how quickly these fellas are going.
Very easily putting a lap on one of the back markers, and now Baldwin and Lindley coming up to lap one of those slower cars.
They're having a good battle. What Les has to pay a little bit of attention on right now, because he is working so hard to get by Jack, is his own gauges, and to a certain degree his temperature gauges. Very much like they run in NASCAR, when you follow a car very closely for long periods of time, because you're disturbing the airflow in through the radiator opening, your temperatures just climb fractionally. And ultimately, you want to keep a car as cool as possible, because that's what will contribute to the long life.
Both Baldwin and Lindley getting past Rick Dittman now, Mount Prospect, Illinois driver.
Just to explain, too, that we're seeing a couple of hoses sticking out through the window there on Jack Baldwin's Hot Wheels car. What those hoses are for is just simply to blow in a little bit of cool air to the drivers. These cars have a lot of metal plating. It's aluminum plating covering different components. And of course, because they don't have insulation, they radiate the heat. When you're into one of these cars with a double or a triple layer driver's suit, you've got gloves up over the suit, you got a helmet on, boots that are tight around your ankles. You can lose 7 to 10 pounds in the course of a 1-hour race just through sweating it off, through dehydration. The heat factor is tremendous, so that little bit of fresh air, it feels like the best air conditioning system in the world.
Scott Sharp continuing to get past some of the slower cars, and the battle for second continues full bore. We'll be back as Jack Baldwin and Les Lindley battle it out. 16 laps into this 40-lap race. Scott Sharp running away with it at the moment. Jack Baldwin and Les Lindley in a big battle right now for the second place spot, and that seems to be the hottest spot to be on the course right now as these two duel it out in the Chevrolets.
Kind of interesting to watch, too, the different driving styles that I've talked about Scott being so smooth in the car. Watch as Jack and Les go through the corners in their cars. They both have tendencies to get the back end a little more out of line. They're dirt tracking a little more, and what this will do ultimately is to keep losing them traction, because the more you overheat the tire, the more you slide around, the more you slide, the more you overheat. It's the old catch-22 thing. It just never gets back to the good point. And they're both having a very slight tendency, although not much.
Jack Baldwin was 6th here last year when Scott Sharp went on to win the race.
Right there is the area of 160 miles an hour braking all the way down to about 100 for this corner. Here they'll be down into third gear through that little slide right there and onto the front straight. Right there they'll pick up full throttle. And here it's feed that car as smoothly as possible down the front straight. This is where Jack looks in his mirror and says, "Gosh, that yellow thing's still there." Lindley is really hanging on. He always does well. Gee, I really like watching this man race.
Les Lindley says he really likes the permanent tracks, too. Seems to do better on those in the street circuits.
Sorry to interrupt you. That's the Jerry Clinton Corvette. He has had a left rear suspension brake. He's dragging the left rear wheel. This is not something the crew will want to see because, nope, they're not going to fix it. Look at this. Lindley, once again, has closed right up. I think you're going to see Les take a shot at passing Jack one of these times. Right there. Now, that next car, that's the Mackenzie Ford of Ron Fellows. And just there, the Bud car going down the hill, that's Jerry Clinton.
There is a yellow flag out all around this circuit. Ron Fellows running in 4th place right now.
This is something Ron Fellows will not want to see as we get a pace car out that's going to close up the field. Oh, no.
There it is.
And Clinton obviously did not make it. That left rear wheel parted company. And that's sad. I'm sorry, not Clinton, but Jerry Simmons. He's the Canadian effort that I talked of earlier. A purely amateur effort, and they do a wonderful job. Going up the back straight. Look at the left rear wheel. Look at the angle that's on. It's just putting tremendous strain on the car as he is dragging the wheel and tire up the hill. Something, one of the control arms, one of the suspension arms holding it on has obviously broken. A couple of pieces flying off there. Those can be dangerous little chunks.
Jerry Simmons in that True North Racing Corvette. One of only 4 Canadians in this field today and making just his 2nd appearance in the 4 Trans Am races. We're under yellow around this course. Scott Sharp is the leader. Jack Baldwin continues to hold on to 2nd. Les Lindley 3rd, and Ron Fellows is 4th. Jeff Kingery along with Bill Adam. We are under a full course yellow because of that mechanical breakdown on the Jerry Simmons number 76 car. Scott Sharp continues to be the leader, but of course this yellow flag is going to bunch the field up. Jack Baldwin slotting into 2nd place.
What this does do is to, unfortunately, take away any advantage that Ron Fellows was hoping for. Right there, we're looking at Ron in that number 4 Mackenzie car. Running this harder compound on the left side, the driver's side of the car, he hopes that the other cars with the softer tires will overheat theirs and do some damage. Now, getting this yellow flag situation, if anybody's tires were overheating, they cool right down and everybody's perfect.
Down to the pits, and once again, here's Paul Chater.
Radio during this yellow flag. What are you telling him?
Well, I asked him if he wanted to have an ice cream sandwich. We're struggling a little bit with the handling of the car, and we're just trying to. We have lots of sway bar adjustments in the car, you know, to change the handling. We're just trying to get the perfect combination. We think we might have it.
You think this yellow flag will help him?
Sorry?
You think the yellow flag will help him?
Well, since we're on harder compound tires, we really don't want a yellow. That'll help refresh a few of the cars that are in front of us that are starting to use their tires up. We're watching their lap times, and they're getting slower. So we really didn't want a yellow. Nothing we can do about it.
Okay, team owner Tom Gloy with his predictions for Ron Fellows, who's currently running in 4th.
They continue to make sure that Jerry Simmons' car is off the track, and all some of those parts that Bill Adam talked about being thrown all around the track as he went skating down that back stretch. One thing they do in Trans Am racing, when they do have a caution like this, the slower cars move to one side and all the drivers on the same lap come up together. So there are no back markers at the front of the pack right now. You simply have the top drivers, and so when it comes green again, they'll be flying in the order that they're going to challenge Scott Sharp in.
Yeah, that's exactly the way it does work, and it works really well from the safety standpoint. But I think we should get Paul Chater to do more of an investigative report on what kind of ice cream is getting delivered, like sticky, chewy chocolate, or come on now, Paul, we can take some here in the booth. The cars right now, as we watch them and wiggling back and forth, they're trying to do 2 things: retain temperature, a little bit of temperature in the tires, but also to keep the hot racing tires from picking up debris on the track. When the tires get very hot and very sticky, they act almost like a sponge. They have to avoid that.
We're about ready to go green, and we'll be back for the start. Scott Sharp continues to lead under yellow here at Mosport Park.
Well, getting back here to Mosport is very much like coming home for me. I've been up here for, I think, every year this track has been open. That my father brought me up here to watch races when I was, about knee-high to a Goodyear, I guess. And it's always been a very special place. It's something that, as children, you look at cars and you love them. It's a safe bet to assume that every single spectator that comes to a modern Trans Am race wants or dreams about being in one of those Trans Am cars themselves. The cars are beautiful and spectacular, and now the little members of the spectating audience can get a little closer to that racing car. Mattel has now brought out an exact duplicate of Jack Baldwin's Trans Am Camaro. Everything is the same, just like the big car. Now, the big car is a little bit hotter than your average street car as well. Car and Driver magazine recently completed a test that shows this car runs 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3 seconds, 0 to 100 miles per hour in 6 seconds. Even faster, 0 to 140 miles per hour in 12 seconds flat. That is what you call Hot Wheels.
And of course, any advantage he has now gone, and Jack Baldwin, Les Lindley right behind him.
Yeah, I think this plays a major bit for Jack in that Hot Wheels car, because if he was overheating his tires, as maybe Les was, just a fraction, they are right back cool. Not cool, that's not accurate to say, but they're back warm. That's where you want the tires. Not hot, not cool. Just a good warm tire in that perfect temperature. They have had a chance to cool them down and keep them perfect. What they want to do is not let them get too cold, because then what happens is just like we watched the Indy 500, all the crashes on cold racing tires. By wiggling the cars around and just that little bit of motion, you're scrubbing the tire back and forth across the pavement, generating just that little bit of heat.
20 laps in, halfway through this 40-lap race. This also helps Tommy Archer a little bit. He had that spin, yes, and now he's right back bunched up there, running in 7th at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sure that the whole Dodge clan were very pleased to see the pace car go out, because this now gives Tommy a good shot to get right back up there and fight with the leaders. We can see Jerry's car is still there. That's them hooking up some sort of a sling to the rear end to get the car out of position. Even though the car is off the track as we look at it, just getting hooked up to the tow truck, what they want to avoid is another race car having a problem, spinning off the track into an area that without a car sitting there would be safe. Now, if 2 cars happen to collide, then you're going to get sharp bits of metal and who knows what getting together. They want to avoid that.
Once again, here's Paul Chater in the pits.
This is Charles Dickey with Les Lindley's team. Now, Scott Sharp and Jack Baldwin, teammates. Are they working like teammates? Are they holding Les up?
Well, Jack and Les have always raced real hard together, and he's probably holding him up a little bit. He races hard, and Les is trying to go for the win just like he is.
What is Les telling you? Is he holding back? Is he going to wait till the end to go past Baldwin?
It won't be much longer by now. If he's going after it, he'll go after it after the yellow.
Okay, watch for it. As the green flag comes out, Les Lindley's on a charge.
He's been hard charging throughout this race. Scott Sharp has led from the start. Jack Baldwin moved up a spot on the start, and Les Lindley was the other one who made the terrific start.
Yeah, he did, and I think we will see Les have a real go at it right now. Every once in a while, he gets inspired. He is always very fast, but sometimes he positively becomes inspired. Today looks like one of these performances that I think if he were to go by Jack, he may even close up a bit on Scott. Right now, I think Scott has driven just exactly the way he has to. He has conserved his car, conserved his tires. He has a lot of race car left underneath. There's the Jerry Simmons Corvette just leaving the scene, so we should only get maybe 1 or 2 more pace laps.
Lindley has run very well at this track in various categories. He talks about where you might pass on this track.
Well, I think turn 2 scares everybody the worst on this track, and it's really not that bad. I think you get used to it, and you have to turn in before the top of the hill. You know, that's just a judgment in the field. The other scary part for most people is over the top of the hill coming up to the back straightaway, because the car does get airborne. You get airborne, and they panic and hit the brakes. You can go off the course. Jim Derhog did that, I think, this week, and it's a wild ride when it happens.
I'll bet that's some wild ride. There's an old axiom that putting on the brakes when you're up in the air doesn't do any good at all.
Tommy Archer was talking that his car was getting so airborne on the front coming over that his visor was actually flipping up and coming back down.
Oh, boy. That would not be a fun sensation at 160. Out the left-hand side, the passenger side of the pace car, you can see that Scott Sharp is getting the signal. 1 more pace lap, and you're going to go green. So right now he'll get down to the serious business of making sure his car is primed and ready. If possible, Scott wants to try and jump the start as much as he can without getting penalized. SCCA are very careful. They do not want somebody, for example, to get on the gas 3 turns before the start-finish line where the green flag would be displayed. And in the past, there have been incidents of drivers who have done that. They have been penalized, and they have lost races, which they should do. Normally, you want to keep as organized a start as possible.
This would have been an ideal time, of course, had it been NASCAR or Indianapolis, for drivers to come in, make a pit stop, get some fuel. But on any race on the Trans Am circuit, 100 miles or less, which this one is, there are no pit stops. Last year, this was a 50-lap race, and there was a mandatory pit stop, and that's where Scott Sharp grabbed the lead back in the pits and then went on to win the race.
Yes, that did happen, and I think this format here is more fun from my standpoint. I think the format they currently have is probably the best in racing today. I love sprint races. I love these cars. You can look at the car, and if you drive a Camaro, you hope for that Camaro to win. If you drive a Ford, you want the Mustang to do well. It's very strong product identification, and the cars are just, they're spectacularly beautiful cars. You look at them, you listen to them, you can't help but get goosebumps listening to them.
Getting ready for the restart, that's Randy Ruhlman running right in front of Tommy Archer. Randy Ruhlman used to be a driving instructor here at Mosport Park a couple of summers ago. Out of Concord, California. Tommy Archer out of Duluth without his brother Bobby today. Tommy won in Detroit, is the points leader, and would certainly like to at least protect the 7th place position he's got right now. It certainly doesn't look like he's as competitive as Scott Sharp today.
No, I think Scott does have them handled, and unless that car develops a problem, I can't see Scott doing anything wrong, because he just does not look like he is being stressed at all. And it is something of an advantage to have your own teammate, the car that's immediately behind you. I think regardless of the fact that they have their own individual teams, and yes, they can in fact race each other if they want to, there still is a certain, I think, moral obligation that you take care of each other. If it's the Dodge alongside you, well, maybe you do swap a little paint, but if it's your own teammate, I don't think that'll happen.
Jack Baldwin, of course, the veteran driver. Last year he came in, kind of showed Scott some of the ropes. How much of that sort of hand-holding is there this year, Bill, between the two?
I think zero.
Right.
Now, the lights are out in the pace car. I think we're going to see a green flag here very shortly. Around turn 8, and here we go. There we go.
We've got the green flag racing again here at Mosport. That's Scott Sharp in the lead. That's Jack Baldwin right behind. Lindley can't get through. Ron Fellows is running 4th as they come through that first turn. Then it is Wayne Akers in the Mustang. Boy, tapping there.
Lindley really got loose coming out of 1 there. I think that is just from the tires being that fraction cold that we spoke about. Did not have perfect traction. You saw the car give a pretty violent wiggle. But now his tires should be good and back up to temperature. He's at 2 long corners, and they develop that temperature very quickly. So watch less, and the number, you can see him there again. He's wiggled that car. The second yellow car in your picture, 25 there, number 8 yellow as we go over the crest of the hill. Watch him, how hard he is pressing. I think his crew chief is right. He does want to get by Baldwin as fast as he can.
And that's Akers giving Fellows a battle for 4th right now. Ruhlman and Tommy Archer 6th and 7th.
Excuse me, Jeff. I was going to say, at that point, Lindley would sell his soul for another 100 horses. The nicest place to pass is up a straight because there's no risk. So look at him. He's trying to stay as close as he can. But Baldwin's car has got real good, strong horsepower to that Chevy. Just taps the brakes going over the hill, maybe settle the nose down a little bit. Again, Lindley and Fellows both. Ron Fellows, that number 4 Mustang, is closed right up on his tail. So this is a great tight battle.
Talked with Buzz McCall, the team owner of the Baldwin Sharp entry. He said everything looked pretty good last night, and it's looking pretty good right now.
Oh, is Buzz an inspiration for these fellas or what?
Yeah.
He's so even-tempered and low-key. He's just a delightful man. Look at Lindley. Late out of that corner again, just a tiny little wiggle. He actually had to get off the power at the exit of turn 1. This is the long downhill turn 2 that Les spoke about. Don't you love that mustache? You could go fishing with that.
He looks a little like Raleigh Fingers, I think.
He does.
Scott Sharp continues to lead. Great battle for 2nd. We'll be back. Jeff Kingery and Bill Adam at Mosport Park. We are under yellow again. The car you're looking at, the number 42 of Skip Panzarella.
This is turn 4, the same spot where the Dodge and the Camaro of George Robinson had a little incident before. And I think just simply he got off at the top of the hill, which is a dreadful place to do it. It's bad enough when you're going to have an accident and you can see where you're going, but at turn 4, I mean, the world looks like it drops away from you, and you just don't know what you're going to hit. So I'm sure his heartbeat doubled.
Pace car is on the track, and lining up right behind it is our leader, and he has been our leader from the start. That is Scott Sharp. Jack Baldwin, Les Lindley continue in the battle for second when we come back. In this Aaron Max Trans Am race from Mosport Park, we're under yellow. Scott Sharp is the leader. Jack Baldwin, Les Lindley continue to run second and third. And we'll send you to the pits. Paul Chater standing by with the crew chief for Jack Baldwin.
With me is Nick Short. Nick, Jack seems to have been running to a plan so far. He's holding back Les Lindley, and yet he's letting Scott get away. Is this part of a longer range plan?
No, not really. He's running at a decent pace that he thinks he can run at, and a pace that will be there at the end. So,
is he telling you anything on the radio? Is he having any problems with the car?
No problems with the car. He's saying it's pretty good. It feels pretty good to him, and sorry, I just had to get my time there. So he's feeling pretty good. We'll be there at the end. We'll be giving Scott some trouble at the end.
Is he allowed to pass Scott?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we will be passing Scott.
Okay, it depends who you believe. Some say no team orders. The competition thinks otherwise.
Yeah, that's great.
Continue to look at the car of Skip Panzarella down in turn 4. That's the reason we are under yellow.
And we can hear that Jack's crew chief is obviously from North Georgia.
Jack from Marietta, Georgia. Says he's excited about watching baseball and the Falcons now in the new Georgia Dome that they're going to open up there this fall.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. He would quite enjoy that. Well, this is a bit disturbing right now for these drivers. They have just, how can I equate it to street driving? But basically, when you have to kind of shut down your emotions from a race sense to go on a pace car incident and then see the pace car light go out, you just key yourself all back up and then to shut right back down again. Sometimes that can really disturb the concentration of certain drivers. You can see that they're just getting the sling out here to try and get this car out of the way. These fellas do a wonderful job here. They try and keep this track clear as quickly as possible. Really good.
We haven't had a repeat champ in Trans Am since Wally Bedellenbach Jr. did it in 85 and 86. Scott Sharp trying to get back to that point. Skip Panzarella of Melville, New York, the reason for the yellow. Accident down in turn 4. Scott Sharp continues to be the leader. Yellow flag is out. Pace car is on the track. We expect to go green very shortly here.
Yeah, I think with a little bit of luck, this shouldn't last much more than a lap or two because that car, relatively speaking, even though it's still on the track, is in a safe place. It's protected by the guardrail on the outside edge of the track. So I think they can resume racing as soon as they get the tow truck back into its safe position. We'll keep an eye on this pace car.
Just before the break, we were talking about Scott Sharp wanting to come back and defend the championship this year, Bill.
Yeah, and it's, again, I think a tribute to Scott's intelligence that he does something like this. He came into a Trans Am series last year, relatively speaking, unheard of. He had won a championship in SCCA racing, but you never know how good you are until you put yourself up against the, quote, big boys, the Jack Baldwins, the Les Lindleys of the world. For him to get into this car and to win the championship, I thought was just a remarkable achievement. And what a lot of drivers do is to use that as a stepping stone to go on to other things when, in a lot of cases, they're not ready to move. Scott himself thought that he perhaps was not ready, wanted to spend one more year seasoning himself, and stayed with this team, with this field of racers, and I thought it was great.
Case in point, Robbie Gordon won at Long Beach. He's driving Indianapolis. What are the future goals for Scott Sharp?
Well, I'd like to get to Indy cars. That's really my road racing is my love, and I'd like to get as far as professional in the sport as I can. And I really have taken a large attraction to Indy cars, and hopefully I can make my way towards that series.
Scott Sharp, I would imagine, will do very well in Indy cars. Just seems incredibly mature for a 24-year-old driver.
Yeah, he's amazing, and he is almost a dream from a public relations standpoint. He's delightful to talk with, to deal with, to have dinner with.
Now, as a driver, for probably most of the last, say, 12 to 15 laps, you've been running under yellow. You haven't been pushed too much. What happens now?
Gear yourself back up. Get ready to go.
Scott Sharp, the leader. We're coming back to green when we return to Mosport Park right after this. Kingery and Bill Adam, 30 of the 40 laps are down. 1/4 of this race left, and we are going to get green as soon as they get around to the start-finish line.
At this point, they have used the first 30 laps as practice. Now the race.
Scott Sharp is the leader. Jack Baldwin, his teammate, running second. Les Lindley has been impatiently in third for most of this race.
And watch the impatience here. Remember what Les did at the start of that last episode where his tires were still a little bit cold. The pace lights are off. They're going to get green. Watch Lindley back in third place to see if he can stay tight on Baldwin's tail.
Here we go, up around turn 10, main straightaway. Green flag is out. We're racing again at Mosport. Here comes Scott Sharp across that start-finish line. Can Lindley get Baldwin? No, and Ron Fellows right in behind Les Lindley.
Ron, for some reason, takes a really tight line down to this corner. Lindley was perfect on the exit, carried a lot of speed out, did not give Ron any sort of an opportunity to take a run at him. Watch down to the corner. Both cars very smooth. There's no signs of cold tires this time, so I think they've all warmed up their tires. Ron is trying up the inside, can't quite go deep enough. Lindley's car has been very stable under braking. I don't think Ron is going to get a shot, and yet that is one of the best areas of passing, the entrance into turn 3.
Of course, Ron Fellows from Toronto. His prime sponsor, McKinsey, a Canadian investment firm, and they have about 700 people here today to watch him run that AER McKinsey Mustang.
Boy, Fellows almost hit the back corner of Lindley's car on the exit of the corner, but watch how they compare. This is something that has been very interesting. We got Camaro, and Mustang. You can see the cars up the straight are very, very equal. Looking at radar guns yesterday, they were timed anywhere between 159 and 161 miles per hour. And a lot of that 1 or 2 mile an hour change can depend on how cleanly you're able to get off Moss Corner, the hairpin, without getting sideways. So very, very good rules making by the SCCA people to keep all of these cars as even as possible.
That's really the key to this whole circuit, isn't it, Bill? If
yes.
You can get that even maybe an extra 10 or 20 feet coming off that turn.
Yeah, Mosport is a track that benefits a very smooth flow. In street circuits like what the last Tide race was in Detroit, it's a point and go. Slam the brakes on, turn the hairpin, push the gas to the floor. Slam the brakes on, turn the corner, and so on. At Mosport, right here, you can see the braking is hard, but it's very smooth. You never jam the brake on. The only place you really use extremely hard braking is down at the hairpin, at the bottom of turn 4, the area they call the chute. There you use it 100%, as hard as you can push. But the rest of the time, it's almost, you try and get away with as little braking as possible to keep the flow going.
Really looks at this point like Jack Baldwin is holding his own, and Les Lindley has his hands full more with Ron Fellows now than trying to catch Baldwin.
Well, something also that's very impressive that we've almost been avoiding inadvertently is the car right behind Ron Fellows, Wayne Akers. That, too, is very much an independent racer. Here is a man who does not have factory backing. He has run his own operation for quite some time, and he is having a really good race today.
Ron Fellows, of course, from Toronto, has run many times here at Mosport. What about a home court advantage?
This is home, and I know the place well, but this weekend we have really not been in the hunt for the pole, which I thought we would be. This is the second weekend in a row that we've just struggled a little bit with setup. You know, working with the motor a little bit, trying to get power down. It's been real frustrating, and I've really had to remain, calm and talk to myself, because this is home, and don't lose it just because this is home. And Scott's having a real good weekend so far. He's been driving real well. His car's quick. He's quick. Bad combination.
Bill, we talked about so many of those first laps through the middle of the race being under yellow, and it just practice. Now we've got 8 laps to go.
Yes.
And everybody's stretching it out a little bit.
Yeah, you can see that Baldwin has pulled away a little bit from the Lindley Camaro, but Fellows is staying very close to Les. Now what Les is doing is putting himself, or he has put himself in the position. Look at this now. There's Archer trying to get up the outside to make a pass. Beautiful pass.
He got Randy Ruhlman.
Just a sensational pass, and that is very difficult. Coming over the crest of that hill at 160 miles per hour, the car gets light. If it stopped, these cars weigh, for round figures, let's say 2,600 pounds. At that point, you're at 1,600 pounds. You take a lot of weight off. So putting the brakes on, you have to be so delicate with the pedal or you lock wheels. He's pushing very hard. We're going to get another look at this in just a second to see. There we go. That's 160, and look at how light the cars are. He is using the outside edge of the track, and look, the car just sliding, just on the edge of adhesion, but does a picture-perfect pass. That's just the way I would have done it.
Tommy Archer, the points leader in this Trans Am series, and Tommy Archer and his brother Bobby running a lot of 24-hour races here at Mosport. They have won the endurance races 5 of the last 6 years on this track. So you talk about getting track time in, these fellas have it.
A lot of time. I drove with Tom a few years ago at the Daytona 24, and he too is a very, very intelligent driver. He knows limits and knows how to save a car. So he wants to try and push, but I think he may be a little too far back. He's going to have a real fight on his hands too when he gets up to Wayne Akers, because Akers' Mustang has been very strong today.
Scott Sharp has already won 1 point in this Trans Am race for sitting on the pole. He's won another point for leading the most laps. He's the only driver to have led a lap. He has a chance at 33 points today, which would jump him right back into the championship picture.
That's something that Scott and the whole Duracell team need, because they have to try and reestablish this air of not so much confidence, but I think just trust in their car and in themselves. You tend to start doubting yourself when you make a little mistake here and there. Scott certainly has not made a mistake today. He has not put a wheel wrong. This car just looks like it's as if it's on rails.
Stop 5 on the tour coming up on July 12th at Des Moines, and that's another course that Scott Sharp says he likes a lot.
That's frightening words for the competitors. Like I said, come on, Scott, can't you tell us that you don't like it, that you're frightened of this thing?
Scott Sharp flying right around this track right now. His teammate Jack Baldwin continues second. We'll be back with the finish right after this. Stay with us. 4 laps to go in the Aaron Max Trans Am from Mosport Park. Scott Sharp has led from the start to this point, and it doesn't look like anybody is going to be able to challenge him. There's Tommy Archer currently trying to move in on the 5th place car of Wayne Akers.
Yeah, you can see that Scott Sharp is really all alone in your picture, and again, the car following him, his own teammate, Jack Baldwin. These cars right now look secure in possession. There's Les Lindley in 3rd, but look at 4, 5, and 6. Look at these cars. Where's the proverbial blanket?
And this is big for Tommy Archer right now, the points leader. He knows that Scott Sharp is going to have a big points day here at Mosport, maybe catching fire. And if he could pick off another spot or two, Bill, very big for him in terms of picking up a few extra points.
I think this is really just a fantastic performance by both Archer and Wayne Akers, that number 7 Mustang. Again, this number 7 is an independent. For him to be doing this well, I think is just, that's wonderful.
Wayne Akers ran fairly well in the top 10 at Long Beach, and then at Detroit and Portland had some transmission trouble. 23rd in both those races. He told me on Friday he thought they finally had that number 7 car fixed.
God, and look at Archer. He is all over the place. Look at sideways coming out of turn 10 here. He is trying everything he can with just a few laps left to get by Akers, maybe even get a shot at the Canadian up ahead. That's what he wants. Look at this, all the track used up. At this point, you throw away those rear tires. Get your foot in it. If you have to use curbs, you use whatever you have to. You can see the Fords seemingly are able to pull away a little bit down turn 2, but then watch that red Dodge close up again.
Tommy Archer in a spin earlier in the race. George Robinson got involved in that. We really haven't heard from George since, although he is running back in the pack in the top 10. That's his teammate Randy Ruhlman coming up right now, currently holding 7th place.
Oh, gee, and Akers too. Oh, look at this, getting sideways just at the entrance of Moss Corner. This should hurt his exit speed. Watch what happens here, because if the Dodge was able to get a good run off the corner, he may have 4 or 5 miles an hour at the top end and might get alongside in the braking area. Let's watch this. They're going up the straight. They're still accelerating 4th, 5th gear. They're 160 right there.
That's 160 miles per hour. Look at the Dodge.
Tommy's front wheels are getting off the ground.
It does look that way. I do think they're getting air under those front wheels. Right back up on Akers' tail. Akers is trying to make that car as wide as he can right now. I think he may have given up the idea of challenging Ron Fellows for that position. Now what he's worried about is this bright red Dodge coming up on his rear bumper.
2 laps to go. Scott Sharp way out in front. You're watching the battle right now for 4th, 5th, and 6th. There's Ron Fellows, the Canadian, Wayne Akers, and Tommy Archer in that Dodge. And remember, only one Dodge here today. Bobby Archer involved in an accident on Friday that took him out.
This is just fantastic. Archer at the bottom of turn 2, probably a 120-mile-an-hour corner, is getting long power slides. Getting that car right sideways. His foot is deep down the carburetor. Akers' car, the white Mustang, continues to go very quickly down these long right-hand corners, but at the bottom, Archer appears to close up, and then up the straight, they're almost dead even. Archer's big spot is under braking at the top of the straight. I think that's where he would have to make a move. But because of his power slide, look at the distance he's lost.
Ron Fellows continuing to hold 4th and now widening it out just a little bit on Wayne Akers. A couple of Mustangs there in the 4-5 fight.
This is perfect to show you the competitive nature of these Trans Am cars. That one little mistake, you lose 2, 3, 4 car lengths. You have to drive like this man does.
Scott Sharp should be getting the white flag this time around. Scott Sharp, the leader, and really, Bill, the leader from the time they took him out for an unofficial practice on Thursday.
It just is, I'm getting boring saying it, it's a perfect performance. He makes this look so easy, as if he's not trying, but he is so quick. It's very much like when you watch a professional at anything, when you watch the pro skiers or the pro tennis players, everything appears easy. You look and you think, geez, I could do that. Well, you look at this man's performance today, and you think the same thing. It's beautiful to watch.
Scott Sharp has not won on this Trans Am Series since last September when he got his 6th and final win en route to the Trans Am Championship.
Now here is our final battle. This is going to be Akers' last shot right here. Oh, I thought they touched there for a second, but I guess not.
Looked close.
It was very close. I think Fellows got off the corner with enough acceleration that he will not give Akers a chance to pass him under braking at the top. Wayne would have had to have been a lot closer. As here we go. This is Scott coming through turn 8. He's only got 2 corners to go.
He can just about coast it home. Scott Sharp from the pole looking for his 8th win, his first of 1992, and as he comes across the line, the winner, Scott Sharp, here at Mosport, and right back in the championship series.
Great day.
Jack Baldwin will bring it home in 2nd place. His teammate, boy, what a weekend for Buzz McCall.
Geez. Is this perfect or what?
Couldn't have written the script better. Scott Sharp is the winner, acknowledging the crowd. Jack Baldwin right behind him. And Les Lindley finishing 3rd as they strung it out a little bit in those final 10 laps. Not quite as competitive as we might have thought, Bill, in the last quarter of the race.
Again, the key is to try and drive as Scott did with perfection. Now, here's the teammates.
Yeah.
That's a nice picture. I am sure they are both very, very happy. They have both driven very well. Excellent job, fellas.
Scott Sharp has won this race. Jack Baldwin 2nd. Good battle for 4th between the 2 Mustangs. We'll be back to Mosport right after this. You're looking at the winner, Scott Sharp, here at Mosport in 1992, winning by 2.5 seconds over his teammate, Jack Baldwin. Right now, let's send you down to Paul Chater. He's with the winner.
Scott Sharp, it's been a long while. It was kind of a drought. Was it as easy as you made it look today?
I tell you, the Duracell team, they just couldn't have done a better job. We really turned the car around from the last race, and it was just a dream race for me. I got to thank them, thank God, thank Goodyear Tires and Chevrolet.
It must have been some help to you to have your teammate behind you, though.
It was, yeah, because when they started ganging up on him, it allowed me to pull out a little bit, and I think that really gave me a little bit more of a cushion for conserving my tires. But towards the end, I knew he had just as good a car as I did, and we had to really run hard for the finish.
There was a lot of pressure on you for a victory. You've got one. Can you go into the next race a little more relaxed?
I sure hope so. We're starting a 6-race streak, which are my favorite 6 races, so this is a good way to start it off.
Okay, Scott Sharp, the winner here at Mosport.
Wire to wire, Scott Sharp takes it, Jack Baldwin second, then Les Lindley with a good hard charge at the start, Bill Adam, and that really made the difference in his race because nobody caught him.
Well, I think after today they should get rid of the rabbit and we should have a yellow Camaro out there to still keeps going.
Ron Fellows and Wayne Akers, 2 of the 5 drivers with Mustangs, were 4th and 5th. And you take a look at the rest of the top 10. Tommy Archer involved in that early spin and then gutted it back out, able to make a pass late on Randy Ruhlman and take 6th place. George Robinson had some trouble right from the start, got passed by a couple, and then got tangled up when Tommy Archer spun, never really got back into it.
Just a most unfortunate day for George. He was someone that I thought could perhaps have put in a challenge to Scott today, although with that degree of perfection, I just don't know. But George will be back. He is just one of these people that the more time he gets in that Camaro, the better he gets.
You're looking at the car of Skip Panzarella, wrecked earlier, brought out one of the caution flags. They'll take that back. I think you mentioned it earlier, Bill. Bad news for the rest of the field. Scott Sharp dominates today. He could have won 33 points maximum. He got those 33 points, and now going on to a circuit that he really likes at Des Moines in a couple of weeks.
This is something very important to the team that we hear it a lot in football, the word momentum. If you get momentum on your side, things generally do work for you. And I think this just bodes for him.
Scott Sharp came in here on Thursday, ran fastest in unofficial practice. He was fastest in practice on Friday, fastest in qualifying on Saturday, and led wire to wire here at Mosport to take the checkered flag. For Bill Adam and Paul Chater, I'm Jeff Kingery. Scott Sharp the winner. So long from Mosport Park.